Welcome to the 19th episode of the Mayor's Mixtape. My name is Haley Sue Robinson, Director of Public Affairs.
City of Pueblo Mayor Heather Graham.
And today we also have a guest, our Purchasing Director, Naomi Hedden. Before we jump in with her, I'd like to remind you we're available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and we also have this podcast available on local channel 17. So there are lots of opportunities to listen to this podcast. And don't forget, if you have questions or want to suggest a topic for Mayor Graham to cover, you can email us at mayor@pueblo.us. Now we're going to welcome to the show, Naomi. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are here to talk about purchasing. So we want you to walk us through some of the nuts and bolts of how purchasing works. What does the RFP process look like, and how does the city determine how bids are awarded?
I could write a book.
I bet you could.
And I probably already have. The RFP process is we have RFPs and IFBs. And the RFPs are requests for proposal for professional services.
Okay.
The IFB is more for like construction projects. The difference is RFPs are awarded based on evaluations and what will benefit the city the best. IFBs are based mostly on price, but responsiveness and responsibleness of the vendors and the contractors.
We hear it called like lowest and best bid a lot of the times, right?
That is true, but that's only for construction and for equipment, any commodity.
Okay.
Once in a while for a fire truck, we'll use an RFP process because it's more than just low price. So that's kind of an antiquated.
Sure.
We really should be going more for best value rather than best price.
That sounds better.
That'll be in the new version of the policy.
Okay.
Coming
The new
soon.
book you're writing?
The new book.
Okay.
Naomi, what's the threshold for when or how the city uses an RFP? Like, what determines why would we go out for bid rather than just purchasing something?
I will tell you that, the current threshold is very antiquated. It will be changing in the new book. Right now, it's anything under $1,000 does not have to be bid. We just ask that they use their best judgment. Anything between $1,000 and $10,000 can be informally bid through, the departments can do that. Anything over $10,000, I can be judge of whether or not we can do informal up to 15, and then it's bid formally.
So when you say that the departments can use their discretion, what does that mean? Like they have to get different quotes, or how does that process look if it's under 10,000?
No, under 1,000.
Oh, under 1,000.
I mean, nothing is. You can't get a
good
stapler.
Yeah.
For under $1,000. Serious. But we just ask that consider your budget.
Okay.
And if you find some chairs, staples, go look at Amazon and Office Depot or something to see if you're truly getting your best value.
So you're doing a price comparison.
Yeah, I mean, they don't always. Sometimes they go to somebody that they've used before and they've been pleased with their service. So.
Okay. One thing we hear a lot is about the RFP process that, maybe like the mayor or the department heads pick their favorite contractor or they pick their favorite person to work with. How much are you involved in the RFP process, Mayor?
None. I've only ever sat on one or even ever opened up one set of bid documents, and it was for the shelter.
Yep. That's the only
one I've
process
ever
you've been part of?
Uh-huh.
Interesting. Okay, so then what does that review process look like, Naomi?
So I'm big on following rules. And
you're the rule lady.
Yeah, there's other titles, but
we'll stick with that one.
We'll stick with that one.
Okay.
But in an RFP process, we will have the department or the manager, project manager select their evaluation committee.
Okay.
And then they go through all of the proposals and they select the best value based on scoring. So we have a scoring sheet in OpenGov, because I need to mention that all of our bids are open electronically now.
Oh, okay.
Which has saved us so much time and
trees.
Yeah, and trees, headache, trees. Yeah, it used to be
all the filing and paperwork of having to print everything.
Yeah, so we've gone electronic on everything.
That's amazing.
And we can find any kind of document from the time I started in '98.
Wow.
So.
You know, one thing we also saw in some of maybe the more recent RFPs that folks have followed is there's a process where you invite the folks to come and ask questions. Like I know we did that with an art installation process, or we even did it with the RFP for the shelter. What does that look like for folks who might be interested in bidding on a project?
So every solicitation has time for questions. And within the OpenGov, it has a place that vendors that are registered can go in and ask any question they want. And they have a certain date, a cutoff date. We get answers for them. For example, I believe it was the boathouse or maybe the fire stations. There were like 350 questions, and we went through every one of those and made sure.
350?
350. So we had to work with the project manager and the architects to get the correct answers.
That sounds like a lot of back and forth, maybe.
It is, and a lot of the questions were repetition.
Sure.
But we made sure that between us and the project managers, that it got, and the architects, that they all got resolved and people were happy.
So it's a pretty thorough process.
It is a very thorough process. Sometimes the vendors, they don't like the fact that I reject their bids because they are non-responsive. That being, our bids are clear. And if you can read, it's pretty, you can understand. And we have questions or phone numbers, areas that they can send us questions directly. They can call us through the whole process, and we will take them by the hand and lead them through it. But if they don't do it, that's on them.
Which is then why they get rejected.
That's why they get rejected. And we even given sometimes opportunities to fix that if it's in the city's best interest, as long as we're not touching the price or anything like that, or their project approach.
Okay.
So.
And is there always the same time frame for every bid?
Not necessarily. Right now our standard is 3 weeks from the date that it's posted to the date that it's opened. Sometimes if it's a complicated bid, then we will extend it. But they have to give us a good reason to extend it, and it has to be during the question time period.
Okay, so then once we open a bid, what's kind of normally the time frame before, let's say, we see it on an agenda at City Council for approval?
It just depends.
Could be a couple months.
Could be. If they have the money, if the departments have gone through the correct process, made sure that before they put it out to bid, the money was available, we could have it on the agenda within a couple weeks, and then it's awarded. So some of these projects can be awarded quickly. It just depends on the department head and the project manager and how they're handling their process.
Everybody having their ducks in a row.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what we try to tell them from the get-go.
Okay.
Do it right, and we'll be right on it. It doesn't have to be. I understand that there are some communities that take up to 6 months. We couldn't believe. I was at a conference many years ago for transit in Dade County, in Florida, and they said that the council had to review every single proposal, nuts and bolts, literal nuts and bolts, to be awarded could take up to 6 months.
Can you imagine if we did that?
Can you imagine?
So we make
That
sure.
would be, that would take a very long time.
We'd be at council every night till 2 a.m.
We would.
Yeah. And so we don't do that. We make sure that we get it through as quickly and thoroughly as possible.
Because we do a lot of bids and a lot of RFPs. What do you think we do a year? How many projects do you bid out?
I think last year we were up to 160.
It's a lot.
Across all the departments.
Yes. And we didn't start putting the informal bids into OpenGov and giving them numbers until last year. So prior to that, it was, even before that, we had, in 23, we had, I believe, 130 or 140 bids, and that was without all of the informals. But now that the money is kind of dropping off a little bit, I'm sure that that's going to go away also. But when it is federal money, there's a lot more involvement. We have to make sure that the vendors are in compliance. There's a lot more rules. So all my staff has to know the federal. So it's not just a matter of write a bid. When I first started, we actually had mimeograph, I'm aging myself, mimeograph fill-in sheets, and that was the way it was bid out. Nothing was, they stapled a scope of work. And now it's a complicated process, but it's an easy process for those that truly want to learn.
Sure.
And we're willing to teach them.
How about, can we use the same contractor more than once within the city? I know that's one thing that a lot of folks ask, I know the answer, but how are we able to use a contractor more than once for a project?
If it's for construction and they come in lowest and best bid, we're going to use them. They could have 5 projects in a row. However, we do encourage them, if they have that many, they need to make sure that they have the backing and the finances to have the bonds. If they're smaller projects, we have run into a few contractors that kind of stack them up because they come in too low and then they can't finish any of them. So then we debar them. And
so you have a way of taking care of that. Yeah. Okay.
If they're not doing a good job, and the department heads document, then they're out.
Okay.
So.
And I think another thing that is pretty surprising to a lot of folks is how many people are in purchasing. How large is your department, Naomi?
2. Feels like that sometimes now.
Sure.
I have 4 full-time employees. There's myself, 2 contract and purchasing administrators, purchasing specialists. I have 2 part-timers who have been with me one of them has been with me for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
And she doesn't want to go full-time. So, and I have a messenger. So 7?
For the whole department.
For the whole department.
And also outside of the RFP process, what else does the purchasing department handle? You mentioned the messenger.
The messenger is through our office. We handle any equipment within the city that is obsolete. We sell things through auction, whether it's equipment, monitors, fire trucks, vehicles, just about anything that is, down to erasers that have been in the warehouse for 20 years. If somebody wants to buy them, they sure can. So we run the auction. We also are the P card or the credit card administrators. So any credit cards, any fraud that goes through, we manage that. I forget some of the things that we do, but
you essentially, you touch every department. Purchasing touches every department in the city.
And we do the training also for the departments that get new employees. We run them through the process. Our accounting, the entry, we teach them how to do that. So my 2 people, the 2 contract administrators, they do a lot. They are on top of things.
It sounds like it.
And we should have fire uniforms because we're putting out fires all the time.
Maybe we'll talk to Chief Huber about that. I bet
can't get one.
She might be open to it.
You think?
Yeah, we could ask.
So,
anything else that we should know about the purchasing department, Naomi?
no. If anybody has questions, they can come into our office. They can send me an email at purchasing@pueblo.us, and we will answer and help them, vendors.
So it's pretty easy process, kind of open door policy, very available, and
Always.
if it seems confusing, you can answer our questions.
Yes. And if they don't know who to call in the city, we get those questions on a daily basis. I don't know how our phone number is out there, but people just call us.
I think that is just like a rule for the city, maybe. Regardless of department, we get questions of, can you help with this? And maybe it's city-related business and we give it to somebody else. And other times it's not city-related business and we say, we don't know the answer, but we're going to help you find it.
Yep.
I feel like that's kind of part of being a public servant.
It is.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Naomi. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be sure to share the information about the purchasing department so that you can find out more if you want to be a registered vendor or you have questions. We'll be sure to put that in the notes for the podcast and in the caption on Facebook as well.
Okay. Give us a call, send us an email, and we'll be there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Okay. That was great to have Naomi answer a couple questions about the RFP process and what purchasing looks like. I know we get a lot of those questions during the city council meeting. We see a lot of them in the comments or people just call and ask, hey, how do I start the process of doing business with the city? So that was great.
It was.
Mayor, last week you put out a statement, or we put out a press release about the city's intention to have a relationship with regional building moving forward, given the vote with the county commissioners of the future of regional building. Now, what does that look like for the city?
We were officially served by the county, I think, last Thursday or Friday. So now the city is going to be working to renegotiate the IGA with regional buildings. So we will continue our relationship moving forward with them.
Okay, so the county's intention is to start a building department, and our intention is to continue with the regional building and not bring it internal.
Have our own department.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I know one thing that you've mentioned quite a bit through, whether it be access permits with CDOT or, our relationship with some of the hotels, that you and your staff meet regularly with regional building. What does that look like?
We have a compliance meeting. We meet the first Wednesday of every month with all of the departments that are involved in routing, regional building, health department. And right now we're really focused on hotels and lodging to make sure that people have their correct lodging licensing and they've been inspected and they are able to have guests in their facilities. With what we saw with the really bad 2 hotels, we've really been focusing on other hotels now, making sure that everybody's up to par. So whenever we have an issue, hotel related or business related or development related, we have a sit down with regional to see what steps need to be taken to process their permits more quickly or remove somebody's permit. So we work pretty closely with regional building to do all that.
Okay. And I know that you were a big part of that process as far as the lodging and with hotels, but what made you start the actual group that met monthly?
I think it was because there wasn't a lot of communication prior, and departments and entities were working in silos. And so to be beneficial for everybody, it was good to have, this monthly meeting. It's a several hour meeting that we sit down and go through different businesses or hotels or licensing to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because when people come into our community, they are entrusting the government to regulate whatever kind of a business it is. And so I think that that's really important to have those relationships and make sure that you're having the communication that needs to happen. We currently work through different software programs between everybody.
Okay.
And so at times it can be difficult to, if something is held up, where it's held up, why it's held up. You don't just walk into a department and get your routing sheet signed off anymore. It's all done electronically. So it's important to still have those face-to-face conversations.
But then that gives you the opportunity to maybe get a background of why something has been held up or what the issue may be. And correct me if I'm wrong, some of the folks that are involved, that includes the health department, the fire department, regional building, who else internally
Planning,
here at the city?
Public Works, ADA, sales tax, finance, law.
So it's a pretty extensive group that meets.
Yeah, PD, code enforcement.
Because all those
anybody that touches any kind of licensing within the city.
Got it. Okay. I also know that a group was part of a routing retreat back in April. What exactly was the purpose of that retreat, or why were we having those?
I think it was to better the communication. It was something that regional building wanted to put forward, to have the city and the county and regional building all at the table at the same time to voice concerns that we have with each other, or we have with software or systems or policy and procedure that they just don't feel is working the most effective and efficient way for the consumer. So we had a decent retreat in which we went and spoke to those issues that we see within our respective governments, and how you can solve those issues with just having better communication.
Great. Okay. So now that the city's been served by the county, and the city's intention is to continue with regional building, what does it look like moving forward?
So for the next 6 months, we'll be looking at the assets of regional building. Assets are determined by permitting. So currently the city sees about 60% of the permits and the county sees about 40% of the permits. And so we'll have to divide the assets up. Figure out what the next steps are going to be as far as employees and try to have a seamless transition so that development doesn't come to a halt.
Okay. So we'll see what happens over the next 6 months.
Yeah, I think, that's 12 city council meetings. Whatever contract agreement we come to, we'll have to pass 2 readings. So we need to start working on it right now, which we've already been working on it since we were first notified that this could be a potential, just to make sure that we're staying ahead of it so that development doesn't stop in the city.
Okay, great. So we'll see more about this moving forward, and then that IGA will be solidified in the coming months.
Yep.
Okay, great. Anything else we should know about regional building?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. I know we talked about some ballot measures for city council last night. We'll see some of those in July, and moving forward. Kind of a weird time frame, just because we have another work session on Monday, and then we don't have another city council meeting for 2 weeks. So it's kind of that weird lull in the middle of the summer before we see more city council meetings.
Yeah, they have to have 2 readings on any of their ballot measures, and that needs to be done before the first week of September. So the last option to have anything on first reading would be the first meeting in August.
Got it. Okay. So we'll see that coming forward as well.
Potentially.
Sure.
Yeah. So the city's also going to be proposing several ballot measures coming forward. So I think I'll be on the agenda in the next couple weeks.
Great.
Presenting my ballot measures to city council.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's all we have for today. don't forget, you can email mayor@pueblo.us if you have questions or a topic suggestion for Mayor Graham to cover. You can find us on Apple, Buzzsprout, Spotify. You can also watch us on local channel 17. And we'll see you next week.